several of you have been here for the series that I've been giving on the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. And those of you who've been here know that this is the crux of the Buddhist teachings. This is the one context or teaching that goes along all Buddhisms. There's several different sects of Buddhism, but they all follow the Four Noble Truths and Noble Eightfold Path as the primary teachings in Buddhism. And as you know, we've gone over the Four Noble Truths several times. The truth that suffering, stress is inherent to a human being, that's the first one. The second one is that if you go to the root of all stress, suffering, that you'll find some form of craving or aversion there at its root when you explore it. The third is that suffering can end. And the fourth noble truth is that the path leading to the end of suffering is the Noble Eightfold Path. Yay! So last time I spoke about the first factor. There are 8 factors in the Eightfold Path. The first factor was right or wise view. And I likened it to the lenses that we look out, the lenses through which we see the world. And if they're marred or blurry, or if we're seeing things unclearly with delusional beliefs or mindsets, then we're going to create more suffering for ourselves. So we're looking to look at our view and see if it's rooted in kindness and compassion and goodwill, and what's best and what's true. Then we have a wholesome view. We want to operate out of wholesome views. We don't want to operate out of views that are rooted in greed, hatred, anger, delusion, confusion. Right? So we're constantly trying to purify our view. That was last time. Tonight, the second factor is right or wise thinking. Right or wise thinking, wise intention. They go. Sometimes they're called thinking, sometimes it's called intention. I like to use both. So, a lot of people say, I come to meditation because I'm trying to quit thinking. I'm trying to clear my mind. I'm trying to stop thinking. And I'm like, yeah, that's not the point. The point of practice is not to stop thinking. You may have heard, I heard someone say once, the mind secretes thoughts like the stomach secretes, what are the juices? Digestive juices. Or the mind secretes thoughts like the liver secretes bile. Not quite that disgusting, though, is it? So the mind is wired to think, right? The mind is supposed to think. That's what its job is, right? But there are several things that are unskillful with the mind that we want to start bringing awareness to. We want to bring mindful awareness to the thinking mind. And that's the whole evening, what I'll be talking about. So this is about the generative component of the mind. Not only do we think, the thinking itself is not the problem. It's what we choose to do with the thoughts that becomes the problem. Right? This is a joke you may have heard me tell before, but I like it. It's kind of related. One Buddhist monk leaned over to another and quietly asked, "Are you not thinking what I'm not thinking?" So this is one of the most famous quotes of the Buddha talking about the mind. And it's just, I love this quote, and I say it often because it's so powerful. You could spend your whole life contemplating this one teaching. This is what he said, and it's in the Dhammapada, the first page of the book Dhammapada. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts we make the world. Speak or act with an impure mind, and trouble will follow you as the wheel follows the ox that draws the cart. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. Speak or act with a pure mind, and happiness will follow you as your shadow that never leaves your side. So the mind and the thinking mind is so important. It's such an integral part of Buddhist philosophy and Buddhist teachings. In fact, mindfulness of the mind is one of the four area foundations of mindfulness, along with mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feelings, and mindfulness of all the other dhammas that go on for, I'm possibly not going to go into all those lists. And the Buddha said that, so our view is really hard to see. Anybody notice that? Right? Our view is pretty hard to see. Our thinking is a little bit easier to see. But our thinking is still kind of hard to see. Anybody notice that? Because it's like this silent whisper in the mind that's constantly talking to us. You know, people talk about having the one little being on the one shoulder that's saying wholesome things to you, and the other one on the other shoulder saying unwholesome things, the devil or whatever. The mind can be a really tricky thing. Anybody notice that? It's quite the little trickster. The problem is that we believe when we don't bring mindful awareness to the mind, it runs the show. It has control. And we're operating unconsciously, following this narrator. Sometimes it's on our right shoulder, sometimes it's on our left shoulder. Sometimes it's leading us to take wholesome actions. Sometimes it's leading us to take really unwholesome actions and create more suffering for ourselves. So we want to bring awareness to the thinking mind. But it's really hard to do because our thoughts are pretty fast and they're really in the background, you know, just constantly going at times. The reason why we do concentration practice, you know, where we're following the breath in and out or scanning the body or whatever your object of concentration is because it tends to calm the thinking mind down. So that it's not constantly going. So the more we practice concentration practice, the more it tends to ease and calm that mind down, quiet it down some. Right? So we do want to meditate and do concentration practice to calm it down. But then we need to bring mindful awareness to the activity that's going on in the mind. A lot of people use their meditation practice to suppress the thinking mind. Oh, wait a minute, just let me go back to my breath, go back to my breath, go back. Oh, wait a minute, the mind's screaming, I'm going to go back to my breath. The heck with you, shut up. Does any of the struggle sound familiar? Right? So that's not helpful. When the mind is screaming at us, we want to turn towards the mind and see what it's feeling, what it's wanting, what it's screaming about, and bring full, compassionate kind of awareness to the mind. What's going on here? Maybe it's worried, maybe it's scared to death about something, event that's coming up. Maybe it's in resistance to what's happening right now, and it doesn't know how it's going to handle this situation. Or maybe it's fantasy, wanting to go off into fantasy about some new romance, or maybe it's stuck in the past, reliving the same episode over and over and over again. I found that when the mind is reliving or regurgitating the same thing over and over and over again, that means that's an invitation for me to bring loving kind awareness to what's going on here. What's going on? Oh, there's a lot of anger here. There's a lot of anger. I don't have to stay with the mind planning its revenge or its comeback to someone that said something to me. You know, instead of replaying the conversation over and over and over again, that to me is like, okay, what's going on here? Oh, there's a lot of anger here. It's in the chest, it's in the belly. Oh, it's very painful. Can I be with this? Can I be with this? Okay, oh, there's sadness here. Okay, what's this sadness? It's in my heart. Oh, there's a deep longing to be understood. Whatever is arising, I sit with this energy, and after I sit with it, all the animosity, the fear, the hurt, the thinking, the regurgitating, the round and round and round stops. We don't have to be stuck in that round and round and round. So when you catch yourself stuck on something that you can't let go of, bring your awareness to the body, to the heart, even to the mind. So that's the most obvious thing that we've all probably experienced before. But the less obvious are the little thoughts, you know, we're trying to get things and manipulate and be liked or be in control. These things are harder to see. They're harder to hear because they're not screaming at the loudest decibel, right? So how can we bring mindful awareness to that? Is through our intention. Right? To be constantly bringing out, what is my intention here? Now your intention, obviously your view is on top and it's going to give rise to your thoughts. And your thoughts going to give rise to your intention. And your intention is going to give rise to your actions and your speech, which gives rise to your karma, your consequences. Right? So we don't always see our thoughts, we don't always see our view, we often don't know what our thoughts are, but we can stop before we take any action or say anything and say, what is my intention? Is it driven by greed, hatred, anger, control, confusion, delusion? Oh, I must be operating under an unwise view. Okay, don't take that action. Don't say those words. If you just had an experience that it was like, oh, it's okay, but something feels kind of off, you can go back afterwards and say, what was my intention in just saying that? What was my intention? Today at the recovery center, a young man said, we were talking about wise speech, and he was saying, yeah, but there's this one guy, he always says something like, attaboy or something, and so now even when he's not there, we're all like, attaboy! And so we're gossiping, we're in a way perpetuating negative things about him because we keep repeating what he's said over and over again. So we probably shouldn't be doing that, right? Because we're kind of making fun of him, but we're enjoying what he says too. And I said, well, what's your intention when you say it? And he said, to make people laugh, because we love it. I said, okay, is your intention to put him down when you say it? And he said, no. And I said, well, it's a wholesome intention. So what is your intention? This is a quote from the Buddha. For a person who holds a wrong view, his deeds, words, plans, and purposes grounded in that view will lead to suffering. While a person with right view, his deeds, words, plans, and purposes grounded in that view will lead to happiness. Practice. I'm constantly stopping myself and saying, what is my intention? If I've said something that someone has felt hurt by or frustrated with, and I see that they're not quite happy, and I want to have a conversation with them, I will go to sit and look honestly, what was my intention in saying that? Intentions are rarely just all positive or just all negative. Oftentimes they're mixed. There can be both. You can have several different intentions mixed into one, mingled into one. When you start really doing this practice, you'll see that. So I like to think if my intention was at least 51% wholesome, right, then I want to be more on the wholesome side. Maybe there was a little bit of, can I get back at him? So just start noticing you might have mixed intentions. So there are three kinds of, like I said before, when we don't see our thoughts, we tend to believe them, we tend to follow them, we tend to get lost in them. And then we tend to act out from those thoughts. And they cause us a lot of stress, right? And it becomes, there's a quote that I love to say too, it turns us into the state that consciousness becomes that annoying time between naps. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. That one went over like a lead balloon.
I like it.
I like it too. I was working with a man. I've worked with a lot of people over Zoom. It's a Skype-type platform. And it was my first time working with them. And I'd like to find out when I work with people, what is their overarching goal or intention? What is it? Why are they coming to meditation? Why are they coming to me? What is it that they're wanting to relieve themselves of or get more of? And so I kept saying, having him describe his life, what's going on, what is it that you really want, your deepest want here? And he said, it took him a long time to get to it, but he finally said, I want my mind to quit creating stress for me. I want to quit getting caught by my mind. Those were his words. And it was, perfect timing because I'm talking about mindfulness of the mind and right or wise thinking or intention this week. So there are three types of intentions that the Buddha taught that we want to practice. These are wise intentions. The first one is the intention of renunciation, you might see here. The intention of renunciation is the antidote to craving, right? It's the mind that turns away from instant gratification, the mind that can turn away from an unwholesome habit that's no longer serving it. It's the intention to not keep feeding this habit that's causing so much stress or suffering, this habitual pattern. This craving, this desire. And sometimes we have that intention for a while before we're actually able to renunciate. But the renunciation is the wholesome energy we bring to craving in order to not feed that craving, that desire, that have to have anymore. Back in the 90s, I was doing, of course, this practice, but I realized that I had become an emotional shopper. And every time I felt kind of out of control, like really angsty and stressed out, I would go and shop. I'd just decide what I needed to have, and I'd go buy it. And it felt pretty good, right?
Retail therapy.
Yeah, retail therapy. Thank you. So I finally started bringing mindful awareness to this habit because I saw that it was motivated by boredom or anger or confusion or delusion. So this craving would arise out of an unwholesome mind state. So the unwholesome mind state, like boredom, would arise. And then the craving to do retail therapy would arise next. And then the intention to go shop and spend money would arise next. Then the unwholesome behavior of going out to buy things that I didn't need just to alleviate these feelings. And then the pleasure, the kind of dopamine rush I was getting while I was buying these things, felt pretty good right then. Then resulting guilt, shame, more depression, the boredom would come back, or whatever the mind state that was there originally would come back. Right? But it was all motivated by a delusional view that shopping will make me feel better. Well, it did temporarily, but it caused more suffering in the long run. You see the cycle of suffering that it was causing? So I had to see this pattern clearly and open up to it. And once I saw this pattern clearly, I decided to renunciate this painful cycle. And my credit card bills got really much better too. So the second intention is the intention of goodwill. The intention of goodwill, and goodwill is the antidote to anger, ill will, frustration, impatience, and any of those, aversion, any of those type of energies. Here's a story. A Sunday school teacher was discussing the 10 Commandments with her 5 and 6-year-olds. After explaining the commandment to honor thy father and thy mother, she asked, "Is there a commandment that teaches us how to treat our brothers and sisters?" Without missing a beat, one little boy answered, "Thou shalt not kill." That's his antidote, that's his goodwill, dealing with ill will. So there are a lot of unwholesome ways that we deal with ill will that causes more ill will in the long run. What are some just one or two words, unhelpful ways that we deal with ill will? I heard a yawn. Go to take a nap, maybe? That's maybe not very helpful.
Fantasizing, like what I would be in.
Okay, fantasizing, like maybe some revenge. Yeah. Okay. What else?
Anger.
Anger.
Avoiding.
Avoiding.
Looking the other way.
Okay. So acting out your anger, avoiding, repressing, suppressing the anger. Pretending it's not there.
Yeah.
Pretending it's their fault.
It's their fault. Turning it around and projecting it onto them. Right?
Louder.
But I'm not screaming. Right. Yeah, we all know because we've all done that. So there are some really unhelpful ways of dealing with ill will that ends up causing more ill will. So we don't want to act our ill will out, and we don't want to suppress it either. We want to turn towards it with mindful awareness, like I described before. Be with it, learn from it, and wisdom will be the result. Then we'll know how to respond instead of react. The Buddha suggested metta, loving kindness, as an antidote to ill will. And he really stressed, what I found interesting, he stressed that we understand at the core of our being that every single sentient being just wants to be happy. There's not one human being, not one that if you ask them, what do you want? That most all human beings, unless they're really mentally ill, wants to be happy. We all want to be happy. And if we understand that, we're going to be really come from this intention of goodwill. Okay, they want to be happy, I want to be happy. let me turn towards my stress and then act from a place of respect and kindness that'll help both of us down this path to happiness. And like I said, did a Sharon Salzberg's retreats. May you, she has a lot of different things, but may you be well, happy, and peaceful, like we did tonight, is what she teaches. May to yourself, your benefactor, a loved one, the neutral person, the difficult person, and then all people. The third intention is that of harmlessness. Harmlessness. So it's kind of related to goodwill, but it's actually having the overarching intention to tread softly. Did anybody watch David Carradine, the karate? What was the name of that show?
Kung Fu.
Kung Fu. Yeah, that was my favorite show. And he was the only one that could walk across the rice paper and not leave any footmarks. Right? And we learn a lot of that kind of movement in martial arts. I'm a martial arts instructor. To tread softly, but carry a big stick. Anyhow, so going through life with the intention to not cause harm everywhere we go, in every room we walk in, to walk across the lawn trying to kill the least number of bugs possible. You know, look down the sidewalk when we walk to not kill any beings. Today when I was walking in my house, I opened the door and a daddy long-legged spider came running in, trying to run in just as I was about to close the door. And if I wasn't looking down, I would have smushed the little guy. So instead, I just kind of let him go back outside. Because I have this overarching commitment to harmlessness, with the intention to cause no harm. And compassion is a really important practice that we do. When we see that other people causing harm, then we practice compassion. We see their suffering instead of see their harm. We don't focus on the harm they're causing, we focus on responding to the harm they're causing, but with compassion. We understand that they're suffering greatly, otherwise they wouldn't be causing so much harm. Because we know that when we're causing harm, we're suffering greatly. We're acting out our suffering if we have the intention to cause harm. So as you move through your days, from now on, if you're doing this mindfulness practice, try to be as aware of your intentions as possible. When you're caught in a certain type of mind stream, be aware of what type of thinking is present. Is it helpful, wholesome, rooted in kindness, caring, compassion, what's best in the best interest of all people, or is it rooted in greed, hatred, or delusion? If it's rooted in greed, hatred, or delusion, then that's, oh, hello. It's time to sit with yourself and bring some compassionate kind of attention to yourself until that energy can heal. This was the natural abiding by Buddhist nun Niguma. She said, don't do anything whatsoever with the mind. Abide in an authentic, natural state. One's mind unwavering is reality. The key is to meditate like this without wavering. Experience the great reality beyond extremes in a pellucid ocean. Bubbles arise and dissolve again. Just so, thoughts are no different from ultimate reality. So don't find fault. Remain at ease, whatever arises, whatever occurs. Don't grasp, release it on the spot. Appearances, sounds, and objects are one's own mind. There's nothing except mind. Mind is beyond the extremes of birth and death. The nature of mind, awareness, although using the objects of the five senses, does not wander from reality. In the state of cosmic equilibrium, there is nothing to abandon or practice, no meditation or post-meditation, just this. So as we do this practice, working with whatever's arising with an open heart, we tend to start falling into what I like to call the illuminated mind, the natural abiding state, which is peaceful, it's calm, it's quiet, where we're not caught up in delusion, delusive intentions or views. We feel a natural caring for all life forms in this state. There's a knowing that we're part of an interaction of the arising and passing away of life. And that this is a natural process, natural abiding. So that's our natural state. And we do this practice with diligence, mindful awareness, and then we get the fruits of the practice through this peaceful, loving, connected state that is our natural state. And that's the natural mind. So I hope you've experienced that. If not, keep practicing, you will. And may your practice bring you much peace and joy.